Yamunatira Vanashari Yamunatira Jana Bala Everybody Hari Jana Bala Everybody Yasodhanandana Yamunatira Vanachari Jayarada Maradava Shri Gauranitai ki, Shri Balaram ki, Shri Maharaj ki jai, Shri Radhadev ki jai, Shri Lakshmi Nrsimhadeva ki, Shri Radha Govinda Madhava ki, Venturaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Gaura Premanandi, all glorious to the assembled devotees, all glorious to the assembled devotees, all glorious to the assembled devotees, all glorious to Sri Guru and Sri Guru, all glorious to Sri Prabhupada, Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale, Sri Mate Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namane, Namaste Saraswate Devi, Gauravani Pracharine, Nirvasesha Sanyavari Pastachari Pratarini. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 We're reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 2, Text 36. Is that correct on the board? 36?
Yes.
Na Namarupe.
Yes.
Na Namarupe.
Namarupe.
Guna. Janma. Karmabir. Nirupitavye. Tava. Tasya. Sakshinaha. Mano. Vachobhyam. Anumeya. Vatmano. Deva. Kriyayam. Patiyanti. Atapi. Na namarupe guna janma karma bir. Nirupitavye tavatasya sakshina. Manovachobhyam anumeya vatmano. Deva Kriyayam Patiyanchatapihi
Deva Kriyayam Pratiyanti Atapihi
Nanamarupe Guna Janma Karma Vir
Nanamarupe Gunajanma Karmabhi
Nirupitai Tavye Tavatasya Sakshinaha
Nirupitave Tavatasya Sakshina
Manovachobhyam Manumeya Vatmano
Mano Vachobhyam Manume Vatmano
Deva Kriyayam Patiyanchatapihi
Deva Kriyayam Pratiyanti Atapihi
Nanamarupe Guna Janma Karma Vir
Nanamarupe Gunajanma Karmabhi
Nirupatavye Tavatasya Sakshinaha
Nirupatave Tavatasya Sakshinaha
Namo Vachobhyam Anumeya Vatmano
Mano Vachobhyam Manume Vatmano
Deva Kriyayam Patiyanchatapihi
Deva Kriyayam Pratiyanti Atapihi
Nanamarupe Guna Janma Karma Vir
Nanamarupe Gunajanma Karmabhi
Nirupitavye Tavatasya Sakshinaha
Nirupitave Tavatasya Sakshina
Manovachobhyam Anumeya Vatmano
Mano Vachobhyam Manume Vatmano
Deva Kriyayam Patiyanchatapihi
Deva Kriyayam Pratiyanti Atapihi
Nanamarupe Guna Janma Karma Vir
Nanamarupe Gunajanma Karmabhi
Nirupitavye Tavatasya Sakshinaha
Nirupitave Tavatasya Sakshina
Manovachobhyam Anumeya Vatmano
Mano Vachobhyam Manume Vatmano
Deva Kriyayam Patiyanchatapihi
Deva Kriyayam Pratiyanti Atapihi
Nanamarupe Guna Janma Karma Vir Nirupitavye Tavatasya Sakshinaha Manovachobhyam Anumeya Vatmano Deva Kriyayam Patiyanchatapihi
Nanamarupe Gunajanma Karmabhi
Nanamarupe Guna Janma Karma Vir
Nirupitavye Tavatasya Sakshina
Nirupitavye Tavatasya Sakshinaha
Mano Vakobhyam Manumeya Vatmano
Mano Vachobhyam Manume Vatmano
Deva Kriyayam Pratiyanti Atapihi
Deva Kriyayam Patiyanchatapihi. Ladies. Nanamarupe Gunajanma Karma Vir Nirupitavye Tavatasya Sakshinaha Manovachobhyam Anumeya Vatmano Deva Kriyayam Patiyanchatapihi Nanamarupe Gunajanma Karma Vir Nirupitavye Tavatasya Sakshinaha Manovachobhyam Anumeya Vatmano Deva Kriyayam Patiyanchatapihi. No, not. Namarupe,
Namarupe
the name and form.
Name and form
Guna,
Guna
with attributes.
The attributes
Janma,
Dharma
appearance.
Appearance
Karma bihi,
Karmabhi
activities or pastimes.
Activities of pastime
Nirupitavye,
Nirupitavye
are not able to be ascertained.
are not able to be ascertained.
Tava,
Tava
your,
Your
tasya,
Tasya
of him. Sakshinaha,
Sakshinaha
who is the direct observer.
Who is the direct observer.
Manaha,
Mana
of the mind.
of the mind.
Vachobhyam,
Vachovyam
words.
word.
Anumeya,
Anumaya
hypothesis.
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 Vartmanaha, the
Vartmanaha.
path.
Path.
Deva,
Deva.
O Lord.
O Lord.
Kriyayam,
Kriyayam.
in devotional activities.
In devotional activities.
Pratiyanti,
Pratiyanti.
they realize.
They realize.
Ata api,
Atahapi.
still,
Still.
he,
He.
indeed,
Indeed.
you can be realized
You can be realized.
by the devotees.
By the devotees.
Translation, purport by His Divine Loving Grace, the A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada.
Jai.
O Lord, your transcendental name and form are not ascertained by those who merely speculate on the path of imagination. Your name, form and attributes can be ascertained only through devotional service. Purport. And it's a very, very long purport. 4 pages. Actually was understood to believe it was text 37, but never mind. It's 36. As Prabhupada writes, as stated in the Padma Purana, Atakshi Krishna Namadi Nabhavet Grayamindrai Sevan Mukhe Hi Jivadho Svayameva Svaratyadaha. This is a very famous verse quoted numerous times by Srila Prabhupada. This is very hard for Chandini. The very hard pumpkins and a very hard chopping board, isn't it?
Am I troubling you?
Pardon?
Am I troubling you?
Well, let's see how it goes. Every now and again there's a crack. And what to do? Let's see. So Prabhupada writes this purport, and he quotes this verse at the beginning of the purport. Famous verse. One cannot understand the transcendental nature of the name, form, quality and pastimes of Sri Krishna through one's materially contaminated senses. Only when one becomes spiritually saturated by transcendental service to the Lord are the transcendental name, form, quality and pastimes of the Lord revealed to him. We can see here the demigods there praying to the Lord in the womb. So they're indicated here clearly in this verse. Is a very, you could say, every verse is significant, but this verse is very, very specific in ascertaining the only way, basically. They say only, the word is used here. Only way. We have Harinama, 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 Eva Kevalam. The only way. So they're also saying here that only way is through devotional service. Kriya Yam. That they realize, not by other paths, speculation or karma, yoga and so on. It's only through devotional service. And it's not that the practice itself is a mechanical, just like we have a theory. That's one of the reasons it cannot be understood. The word mention, where is it? Anumeya, hypothesis. We have anuman. Huh? What are the three processes of realization? Pratyaksha means by basically material sense perception, and anuman, which is experimentation, hypothesis, theoretical applications, like that. So the same word is here, anumeya, meaning hypothesis. It's not by these paths. The actual path is shabda, coming down, descending from scripture, but it's also, even that, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, I cannot be understood by study of the scripture. If you read in the 11th chapter and 18th chapter, the same point is mentioned, that not by austerity, not by charity or good karmic work, piety, even scriptural study, is not by these means that I can be seen as I am standing before you. I can only be seen through devotional service. So is devotional service some kind of mechanical formula? It doesn't sound like, well, it could be sounded like that if we don't go deeper. That, okay, that's the correct formula for seeing God. And if you press the right buttons, there he is, pop, God suddenly appears. 2 plus 2 equals God. 16 rounds equals God, or whatever our formula may be. And we can understand that from this verse, maybe not from the verse of the demigods, but from this verse from the Padma Purana, Padma Purana, that it is not quite like that. It is realized. It's a revelation. It's not a formula exactly, although there is a complete, say, connection between the two. But Krishna is indeed controlled by bhakti, but there's a quality of bhakti which proportionally, we could say, brings about revelation. But here we're talking about the full revelation of the realization of the transcendental name and form of the Lord in their absolute sense, not just in a relative sense, but in the sense of their absolute nature. The name is Krishna. We have another famous verse, many times quoted by Srila Prabhupada. Nama Chintamani Krishnas. How does it go? Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. Very famous verse. That the name is Krishna. It is not something separate from him. It is him. And it possesses all the transcendental attributes of the Supreme Lord. It's not a means to an end. It is the complete form of Godhead. And there is a quality in our chanting. So let's read on a little bit here. Since Krishna and his transcendental name, form and activities are all of a transcendental nature, this is explained in so many places, Bhagavad Gita also. Jopi Sannagayat Va Bhaktim Samadishtaya and so on. Ordinary persons or those who are only slightly advanced cannot understand them. Even big scholars who are non-devotees think that Krishna is fictitious. He doesn't really exist. Yet, although so-called scholars and commentators do not believe that Krishna was factually a historical person whose presence on the battlefield of Kurukshetra is recorded in the history of Mahabharata, they feel compelled to write commentaries on Bhagavad Gita and other historical records. Isn't it amazing? They don't believe he exists, but so many scholars, I don't know how many, but so many scholars all over the world, Western scholars, Asian scholars, I think even from the Middle East some scholars have commented on Bhagavad Gita. So many persons from practically all nations, all but many nations, have commented on Bhagavad Gita. Well, if it's a fictitious scripture, why so much emphasis placed on it? It's the same like with God, isn't it? If God doesn't exist, why are you spending so much time on this subject matter? Especially our famous Mr. Dawkins, Richard Dawkins, absorbed in God. He's like a kind of a demon of the present age, like Kamsa was absorbed in Krishna, but in an unfavorable way. Couldn't get him out of his mind. sometimes that other relationship prevails. There's another form of unfavorable God consciousness, you could say. So these scholars also trying to prove that Krishna doesn't exist in their commentaries. Sevan Mukhi Jivados Vayamevas Pratyadaha. Krishna's transcendental name, form, attributes and activities can be revealed only when one engages in this service in full consciousness. And Prabhupada quotes here from the Bhagavad Gita in 1855, Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavanyaschasmi tatvataha tato mam tatvato gyatva vishyate tat anantaram. Krishna says, one can understand. It's interesting, he's talking in the third party. He didn't even say here, you understand me, in a sense. One can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead as he is only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of the Supreme Lord by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. Only by Sevan Mukha, by engaging oneself in the Lord's service, can one realize the name, form, and qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Elsewhere in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam. And what does that verse infer? This is in the 10th chapter, isn't it? One of the, said to be the seed verses of Bhagavad Gita. 4 famous verses. To those who are constantly engaged in my devotional service with love, what does Krishna say? I give the understanding by which they can come to me. Of course, you could say this is a pre-runner, pre-something, before full realization, but it's the path of that realization, the path Krishna gives the direction by which one can see him, realize him, etc. And the key, of course, is our devotion. It's not just the practice, priti purvakama, the loving devotion in one's service. Not that it's there are, of course, stages of devotional service, where service may be mixed. Are you okay there with that giant knife? Are you safe? I'm worried, it's such a big knife. Is it okay? Are you okay? As long as you know how to handle it, because cutting little things out. Not an easy one. So, priti purvakam, loving devotion. What does loving devotion mean?
Perhaps love to serve.
We maybe love to serve, but that doesn't mean loving devotion necessarily. It's related, obviously. We may love to serve because we like the thing we're doing, isn't it? Service may be conditional still, isn't it? You may love to drive a car, therefore you say, I'm only going to drive a car for Krishna. Okay, it's a stage of devotion, but it's not pure. It's based on our karmic conditioning. Karma Mishra Bhakti. Or we may love some aspect of the philosophy or, going into the philosophical aspect without necessarily a mood of surrender to Krishna. But we just love philosophizing. It's all part of, you could say, coming to that stage of surrender. Sarvadharma, Parityagya, giving up all these other mixed forms of devotional service.
So, loving the duty?
That also can be conditional. It's not wrong, don't get us wrong here, it's definitely a part of progress. But it's not the progress, it's not the stage of completion or perfection. It's the path of perfection. We're still on the path. And if we follow the right direction, of course it can lead to the goal. It can lead to the goal. Because that's also based on, you could say, rules and regulations and material considerations, depending on what we mean by duty. Very dutiful. So Dharma Krishna said, give this all up and completely surrender unto me. So what is love? Let's take the word love a little bit further. How could we define loving devotional service?
It's a service or desire to please the senses of Krishna, not our senses.
Correct. Well, this is the correct aspect from our side, isn't it? That our intention is wholly and solely, and at the moment it's probably a bit mixed, wholly and solely to please Krishna. So that goes a little bit further, because that can still be mixed with speculation. It can still be mixed with karma. It can still be mixed with statements from scripture which tend to accommodate our particular conditioning. And many times we make an argument based upon certain quotations. It's natural. It's again part of the progress of one would hope. But it may not be ultimately the will of Krishna. We can say even in ordinary dealings, I mean, the ultimate will of a person may be, for instance, that their child becomes a flight engineer. Just say, I don't know why that came out, but it came out maybe because one of my cousins was a flight engineer, and their parents wanted them to become a flight engineer. So, you don't start off as a flight engineer. You want me to be a flight engineer? Why are you sending me to school to study history and geography and all this other stuff? It's supposed to be a part of the path to become eligible to be a flight engineer. So the parents have that goal in mind. The child may not even know that that's their goal in mind. And they may not understand at all what is going on. Maybe their intelligence is not mature enough to even question it. But this is all supposed to be a part of the path, which is, and if let's say the guide knows the goal, then he can guide you towards the goal. Although the stages of history, I mean, if you become a flight engineer, history is probably not a very significant topic in terms of being a flight engineer. Probably not, or a brain surgeon or something. Hold on a minute, I just got to study the history of France. You're French, are you? Before I do a brain operation, I have to study the entire history of France to make sure I do it properly. It's probably not a very significant thing, is it? You probably get in trouble if you did like that. But it's not very direct. All these different mixtures and different aspects that people go through are part of the path. They're related to the goal. But loving devotional service, in one sense, is the actual relationship with Krishna, isn't it? The actual relationship. It's not a means to evoke that relationship. Pure devotees may teach that, and they may practice that to show others the means to reach the goal. Sadhana bhakti in its various stages. Sadhana bhakti in its various stages. Now, Vaidhi, which is what we're trying to practice right now, rules and regulations, duties to perform according to one's conditioning, which are favorable for the growth of devotion. But pure devotional service, which is what really attracts Krishna's attention, is very rare. Very rare. Of course, Krishna's attention is there, but he's not exactly revealing himself in this way. He's revealing himself in different ways, you could say. Maybe through some form of remembrance, which degree of Krishna consciousness is there. Maybe by realization of what's going on around us. Maybe evoking our faith deeper and deeper. We may see it in the presence of others. We may even feel some deep attraction for the deity form of the Lord. But in all cases, or even chanting the holy name, there's a degree of conditioning involved. There's a degree of my own, agenda involved there a little bit. How I see it, how I interpret it, how I like it, and so on and so forth. There's a degree there. It's not complete. Pure love means there is no... We hear many examples there. Scriptures and acharyas give us of the pure devotion. A nice example, and a very simple one. It's not very expanded, but a nice simple example is the one of the gopis, who of course are heralded as the topmost of all of Krishna's loving devotees. Prabhupada often quotes the story of when Narada Muni came was sent by Krishna to, visit his various devotees and ascertain their level of devotion. So the Lord asked him to visit his various devotees and tell them that he had a headache. So we all know what a headache's like. And Krishna said, everything originates in Krishna, so I guess he must also have a headache. Is that right? You're a doctor?
If you want blissful.
Huh?
Blissful.
A blissful headache. That's a nice headache, a blissful headache. But still, it must have its origin in Krishna somewhere along the line. He has a big headache when he can't union with Radharani. It's a big headache. That's like the greatest headache that exists. You cannot imagine what nature that headache constitutes. What a headache when he can't have a union with Radharani. It's a mad headache. Anyway, he had a big headache. So he told Narada Muni, the only cure for my headache is the dust of my devotees' feet. So please go down and visit the devotees and beg them for this dust. It's the only cure of my headache. So Narada Muni was thinking, well, it's very strange, but my Lord, yes, I will do what you say. So he went down and he visited the Yadavas, and the Pandavas, and this devotees and that devotees, even the residents of Braj. No one would give the dust to them. How can we do that? This is very offensive. The dust of my feet on Krishna's head. This is terrible. This is like Maha Papa, Maha Sin. We go to hell for that. And one by one, eventually there was only the gopis left. He hadn't asked them yet. So they went to the gopis, and when the gopis heard that Krishna had a headache, they were completely devastated. And they said, well, what can be done? He said, well, Krishna said the only cure is the dust of your feet. Quick, take it quickly! They were practically knives scraping the dust off their feet. Take it quickly, hurry, hurry! Go quickly! Oh, you simple girls. You don't know anything about spiritual truths or scriptural injunctions. You're just simple coward girls, madly in love with this boy. Don't you know what's the result of this? What do we care about the result? You go to hell. Who cares if we go to hell? All that matters is Krishna. Take it now, quickly. So Narada could understand how absolute their love is. It has no inclination of how it will affect me, how I feel. I don't like, what will happen to me. In a conditional stage, this is often the case, which is the predominant deciding factor in many ways. Predominant. It just takes time. Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, gradually purifying our senses. The nature of bhakti, or not bhakti itself, but in its preliminary stage with Vaidhi, is that this practice gradually, gradually purifies our hearts when we serve a devotee who's freed of all vice. Great service is done. Now the secret here is that service, in of itself, we may have an attraction for the service, and that's fine. There are 9 limbs of devotional service. But it's meant to develop an attraction for hearing about Krishna. The attraction to hear about Krishna. That we become absorbed in hearing about Krishna. Wouldn't that be nice? Right now, there's plenty of material topics to get absorbed in. All the time there are. On a local level, even on an internal, the worst is the internal level, isn't it? So many internal emotional thoughts, past memories, doubts, feelings towards others, so many things, whatever it is, trying to judge others or judge the process of devotion, speculate on what's good for us. On and on the internal thought patterns go. And externally there's no end of wonderful topics to absorb our intellect in, to bathe our intellect in the topics of the world events or some other sensual activity or some speculative activity, who will win the election, and so on. And so many things right now, there's so many very, whatever the causes are, that's a topic in itself, but events going on. As Yudhishthira Maharaj, when he was asked by the Yaksha, who was none other than Dharmaraj, his own father, who was testing him, it's a long story, isn't it? The Lake of Death it's called. Testing him to see if he really knew what Dharma was. And one of the questions he asked was, what is the news of the world? Now if you ask somebody now what is the news of the world, they won't stop talking probably for days, practically speaking. There's just so much going on. It's like extreme things. It's quite intense. So you can go on and on and on. He said, Yudhishthira Maharaj didn't say, there's a war going on over there, and starvation over there, and there's a flood over there, and an earthquake over there, and a political turmoil over there, and a riot going on over there, and there's an economic collapse going on over there, etc., etc., etc. And millions of people are dying of this thing and that thing. He didn't say any of that. He said, news of the world? You know what he said? He said, the news of the world is this world is like a big pot. Like a big pot. He used the word cauldron. You know what a cauldron is? Witches use them, don't they, to make their witches brew. Stir all the nice things up inside. I can't remember one by one. He said, this world is like a big pot. And, the sun is like the fire underneath it, and days and nights are, I don't know exactly, you can't remember exact one to one. I like the stirring of the pot, and one thing, this is the stirring instrument, and all sorts of things, the years and then he comes to the final one. He says, and the ingredients of the pot are all the living entities, and time is cooking them alive in the pot. That's the only news of this world. There is no other news. You're getting cooked alive by time.
And you're laughing.
So what's for lunch today? Who's cooking today?
Some living entities for sure.
Pardon?
Some living entities for sure.
Some living entities for sure. Poor old pumpkins.
Entities.
The poor old pumpkins! I hope they're not too old. Otherwise they won't be very tasty.
Should be living entities.
Of course, it's a rather graphic example, and looking at on different levels, but that was more or less his answer to the Yaksha's query. What is the real news? That we're all under the control of time, suffering birth and death over and over and over and over again. Whether it's in this body or that body, a vegetable, a bird, a beast, a human, everyone's going through the same basic circle. Within this pot, we're all inside the pot, stirring it up. And it's interesting, we're using the term witch's cauldron, because, what do witches do? Sometimes Maya is equated to a witch, isn't she? Mm-hmm. The witch of Maya. Jeev jago, Gora Chanda Bole, Kotanita Jayo Maya, Pishachira Koli Pishachira. That Maya is likened to a witch. Is she a witch?
Probably.
Witch.
If it's right on that.
It's Krishna's divine energy. Daiviye Shagunamaya. She's the divine energy of the Lord. So why is she likened to a witch? What are witches meant to do?
Illusion?
They still have witches in France? We hear about it. We heard how the Sanctantabos last year sold a Bhagavatam set to a witch in Lyon. Famous story. She was practicing witch, apparently.
Very.
Pardon?
Very region here.
They bury them here?
It's very well known for witches.
My
Yes.
goodness.
Yeah.
This area here, right here. My goodness. What do they do then? What witches? Is all over the world, I think that there are incidences, historically especially, of witches. Pretty much everywhere. What are they supposed to do?
Enchant people.
They
Illusion people, enchant them, of course.
enchant them, bewilder them, give
Put
trouble.
spells.
Pardon?
They put spells on.
Spells. They put spells. You know, the word spell, it's kind of a, what do you call, how would you could define a spell? Like a
Sort. C'est quoi, c'est
Un sort.
un moon, un sort. La belle de moon.
yes, a spell person. Kind of know what it means, but what's the graphic meaning? Bewilder people, they put some, not a curse exactly, but you suddenly, you become covered by another energy almost. Huh?
Influenced by some
Subtle energy just influences your very existence almost. You're under a spell.
So.
They take their witch's wand and maybe they dip it in the pot or something, and away it goes. I don't know how they do it. So this area here is famous for it, apparently, in history. So doesn't Maya act a little bit like that? You forget who you are and you act in weird ways. What we think we're doing now, we think we're acting in normal ways, right? Isn't it amazing?
Yes.
Maya's so expert, 100% expert. And she's completely, Krishna's expansion of her internal energy, which creates exactly what is meant to happen. To cover the living entities, and we identify just like somebody who's under a witch's spell starts maybe thinking completely differently. There's nothing you can do about it practically. You can counter it by other similar methods, but in and of itself there's nothing. So we're completely under the spell of Maya. Completely, she's so expert. She acts just like a witch, covering our consciousness and causing us to identify ourselves with this material body and mind, and all the consequent, concepts and attachments and perceptions that come thereon. And you could say we even protract or place those on the path of devotion in the beginning stages. And we judge others, and we judge ourselves, and we judge the philosophy, and we judge this. And that's quite nothing unusual about that. But that isn't the stage of realization. It may be, it may not be. Depends how much we're following the proper formula to cure us of this perception or this false understanding, this covered understanding. So devotional service is the process of, as this verse says, of cleansing the heart, purifying our senses of the various conditional ways that we see things or react to various situations, etc., due to our imperfect senses, or not the imperfect senses are always there, but our imperfect perception, or our attachments to the imperfect sensual perception, both the mind and the senses, or our imperfect intellectual analysis, etc. All based on this false ego of seeing ourselves in the center as the enjoyer, as the proprietor, as the, not so much the well-wisher of others, but more we could say of, self-centeredness, whole self-centered mentality, seeing the world in relationship to us, and if things go according to our conditioning, we're happy, and if they don't, we're sad. If they don't go the way we want, we run away, or we put up some defense system to justify our situation, or attack the other person or party or situation. This is the nature of conditional souls. And thus we see wars and all kinds of other friction in the mind, in the world around us, between ourselves, even our close friends, etc., between us and God. This friction is there, which can only be cured by the process of devotional service. It's just like a doctor. Goswami Prabhupada has a lifetime almost of experience. You're giving medicine. The medicine is not the ultimate goal, but it's the means to reach the goal, that the patient becomes healthy, right? It's not the hope that they take medicine forever. They may have to. Not ever, but at least in this lifetime. But you hope they don't, right? You hope they get cured. That's the idea. And if they take the medicine properly, there's a good chance they will. A good chance they will. So that the pure devotees, they give the medicine. Shastra gives the medicine. Ultimately, Krishna gives the medicine. And if we take the medicine according to the formula, according to the directions, and also, there's another side to it too. Let's say, now I don't think necessarily that everyone would see it the same way, but Srila Prabhupada said, he writes, that diabetes is a disease of overeating. So if you give a cure, if there is one, and the person continues to eat like an elephant, especially things you're not supposed to eat, there's not much chance, even if there is a medicine, that he's going to get cured. It's like an elephant bathing in the water and then rolling in the dirt again. There's also a lifestyle that goes along with it, isn't there? A lifestyle, which is mainly based upon association. Mainly. Different types of association. I was just listening this morning to a lecture of Prabhupada. They're saying if we want to cultivate bhakti, we must associate with devotees. You can't do it outside the association of those. At least it isn't. He said you can easily fall away. One becomes easily one easily lapses in one's practices. Easy. Even in the temple, if we're all experiencing it, and we've all experienced it, there's a tendency to become lazy. The mode of ignorance is quite prominent mode of nature. Because it's better than to be active fool. To be an inactive fool is better than being an active fool. Better sleep than cause trouble. Sometimes, we get angry and blah, blah, boom, boom, boom. Passion gets the better of us. Sometimes that happens. But in the association of devotees, we may say, I'll go away, I don't have to worry. But then the root problem remains. It doesn't go away, it's just the mode of ignorance covers it. And we're not aware of our problems. Or we're trying to hide them behind some other thing. But in association of devotees, we should be here eager to have this, brought out. Like if you've got a disease condition, you've got a rotten teeth. I'm sure everyone here has had a rotten tooth sometime in their life. Is there anyone here who's had a rotten tooth? Pretty much. I haven't got any teeth left to have rotten anymore, so I don't think I have to worry much anymore. But we've all got, almost everyone's had a rotten tooth. Now, what do you do? Well, the best thing is to get the rotten tooth out, right? It's gone too far. You can't repair it. Get it out. And you're happy when it's not very nice. The process of getting it out is not very nice, you could say. But it's got to be gotten out. Otherwise it will infect all the other teeth maybe. Your whole mouth may go rotten. And it will cause no end of pain. You can't even eat with pleasure anymore. You've got to get it out. So like that, these are, you define it in different ways, but just an example, that these anarthas, we call anarthas, unwanted or blockages in our spiritual growth, attachments, etc., which are, we may be attached to them, and we may try to justify them, we may try to support them, we may try to meet with people who support our anarthas, make a campaign, this thing and that thing. But it doesn't remove the problem. Problem still remains. It may sound good. It may make us feel good for a little while. You put some tincture on your rotten tooth. And you may feel okay for a little while, but the tooth's still rotten. You may take a painkiller, but its tooth is still rotten. Ultimately, the tooth has to be dealt with. If it's too bad, you have to remove it. These anarthas which coat our perception and our very life itself, for various reasons, we're still covered by, you could say, Maya. And we still have an attraction for her. Who can deny that sometimes we're not attracted to the sense objects? Anybody?
Yeah.
You're attracted to the sense objects?
No,
No, okay. People are attracted to you, is that what you You're the sense object. You like it, you like attention. That's another form of sense gratification, isn't it? Attention. We all like attention, don't we? Whether we're a pussycat or whatever we are, we all like attention. And of course, there's different types of attention. We may like both sides of it. We may like even people who are getting on. We don't necessarily like the person. We like it when people get on our case sometimes. Whoops, it's all there we go. But generally we like the favourable ones. Like, I'm going to pass a piece of paper around afterwards. I want you all to sign saying, thank you, Maharaja, for the very nice class you just gave, okay? And if you don't sign it, I know who my enemies are. We all like attention, huh? Recognition, attention, etc. Part of the conditional stage of devotional service. We're still, self-centered. It's children growing up. Everyone who's had kids know it. How much you have to give attention. You have to have a balance there. You have to know where the line's drawn. Not 100%, but there has to be attention. There has to be encouragement in this way in the neophyte stage of devotional. Well done, Prabhu. Well done. That was a really nice service. Fantastic. Thank you, Prabhu.
Never saw that before.
Huh? No one ever said that to you, huh?
I never saw that before.
Never
Such a high level of service.
Wow.
Yeah. In fact, Vishnu Janananda Prabhu.
Vishnu Janananda, first class. Wonderful. And then you may say it's fantastic service. And now it'll be even more fantastic. Let's see how we can even make it more fantastic. It's already fantastic. It can become more fantastic. That doesn't mean you're going to get more and more praise necessarily, but how our service can become more and more loving towards Krishna, more and more pleasing towards Krishna. So Krishna becomes, he's very pleased in the beginning, just like a parent is very pleased when the little baby makes its first step. Isn't it? So Chan Gandharvika, I'm sure you felt like that when Sangeeta made her first step, didn't you? Wasn't it like me? Even Prabhupada, you saw him in Butler, clapping his hands when the little boy made his first step. It's a natural thing for a parent. Same thing with a spiritual, pure devotee. He's very happy when he sees little baby steps being made. My goodness, can you imagine? Someone chanted Hare Krishna. That's like a big step, isn't it? It's not like, it doesn't sound very much, but it is a big step from, nothing to the beginning of devotional service. Major step. Then they follow principles, regulated principles. We struggle with that like anything, many of us. I'm sure many of you struggle with it. 4 regulated principles. Maybe externally, in the association of devotees, a little easier, but we know these things go on. Devotees struggle with various aspects of the regulated principles. Kali Yuga is a very intense age, and the association doesn't always make it easy. Everywhere you see advertisements, people dressed half naked, people coming up to you trying to entice you, news, media, even amongst devotees sometimes, compromised situations. It's okay, don't worry, a little bit's not too bad. Someone said that the other day, I can't remember who it was. They said, oh, don't you know this has got garlic in it? Oh, a little bit of garlic's it's okay. It's only a little bit. It's okay. Compromising it goes boom, 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 boom. Before you know it, we're not following the pure path. Pure path is not that we're pure, but we're meant to be trying to follow a pure path. And if you associate with the pure path, there's a good chance we'll become purified. As long as we don't we throw too much garbage into the path with our conditioning, our offensive mentality, our attachments, and so on, our demands. That will be there, and hopefully we'll learn our lesson step by step. But gradually progressing on the path of that which pleases Krishna, of pure devotion service, cleansing our senses, cleansing our hearts. Cheto darpanamarjanam bhavamaharavagni nivartanam. Sankirtan Mudita, chanting the holy names. The secret, the key for spiritual advancement in Kali Yuga, the only way really, Krishna said Harinama, Lord Chaitanya says it, Harinama, Harinama, Harinama eva kevalam, Kalo nastiva, 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 gativa nityam. There's only one way, there's only one way, there's only one way. What is that?
Chanting the holy name.
You've got it right, well done. Chanting the holy names, chanting the holy names, chanting the holy names. We have to become, instead of being enchanted by Maya, we have to be enchanted by Krishna. And this is the form, the main way he's appeared in Kali Yuga, Kali Kalera, that verse, Namarup Krishna Avatar. The main way that he makes himself accessible in Kali Yuga is he appears as the name, not the name of, but the name is full in of himself. It is Krishna himself in this most easily accessible form. The deity is wonderful, gorgeous. The pujaris are doing a phenomenal service, whether they know it or not, to please Krishna. They're not dressing Krishna the way they like, maybe a little bit, but hopefully not entirely. I mean, some of us would probably wear jeans and t-shirt if we were given half of a chance, right? We may have other habits too, which we might like to, offer to Krishna. Maybe the latest fashion, latest hats, or don't take any ideas, please, from here, ladies. Whoever the pujaris are, nice boots, chains, give them some tattoos and chains, nice big earrings, whatever it is, or pins here and there, different funny hairstyle, green and blue, all sorts of crazy things that we may like. No, we find out, what does Krishna like, huh? He likes the flute, he likes Radharani. He likes peacock feather. All these various things. We try our best to do for the pleasure of Radharani. And for Krishna, the pleasure of Radharani is dressed for the pleasure of Krishna. Everything we do is for their pleasure. Huh? Krishna, Balaram, Gaurnitai. Gaurnitai, you could say a little easier to please. They're not so difficult. How do you please, well, of course, not that you leave them here with no clothes on, but I mean, how do we please Krishna Gaurnitai?
Chanting the holy name?
Mainly by kirtan. Kirtan, mainly. That's why Prabhupada emphasized Gaurnitai worship, because we're not so advanced in spiritual life, and it's not always so. We may make offenses in our service to the Lord in his other forms a little easier, but Gaurnitai is very easily pleased through kirtan. Lots of kirtan. Please Gaurnitai. And then, by pleasing Gaurnitai, it becomes easier to approach Radha. Krishna, Prabhupada mentions this many times. Kirtan, lots of kirtan. Chanting of the holy name. And even that we should find out. Not that we just do it because I like this tune and that tune and, only do it if there's 100 people listening to me and they all follow me and, you play it. It's not, that's also maybe necessary for public, let's say, spreading of the public kirtan to the conditioned souls. If you go into, you advertise kirtan by the world famous kirtaniya, Janananda Das from New Mayapur, and everyone thinks, oh, he must be a fabulous kirtan player. I wonder what instruments he'll be playing, and he must have all the best kirtaniyas with him as well. Everyone's there. I won't mention anyone else's names, but all the best kirtaniyas will be with him, and he turns up on the stage and he's got doesn't know how to play the kartals, and you do know how to play the kartals, don't get me wrong, and he's singing like Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, and someone's playing the dunga out of tune, and someone's playing the whompers so loud that you can't hear anything else. The harmonium is just completely out of tune in a low drone, and so playing something else, the guitar, bang, boom, bang, bang, boom, bang, whatever it is, and the drums are all over the place. It is not going to attract the crowd. If there is a big audience all anticipating, they're going to leave pretty quick. They're not going to stay around. They might have a laugh for a few minutes, and that's enough. They'll be gone. No, they want to hear everything just materially harmonious.
Yes.
Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that this is like conditional form of kirtan, based upon how it feels to me. The instruments, the tune, the voice, the hairstyle, the dress, the association of those nice-looking boys and girls over there. The place is on TV. I'm there. Look, there I am. All different conditions may be there. You get a good feast afterwards. Yes, it's a thing to do. That in the beginning may be necessary. It's like catching a fish with a worm on the hook. Come, fishy. Come on. Nice, creepy-crawly worm. Woo, come here. Ah! Gotcha. But that's not, that's the way of catching, but it's not the goal. Pure kirtan. Pure kirtan. We read the other day in Prabhupada's poem that is very worth. The modern day kirtan is not the kirtan, the real sankirtan. Don't get me wrong, I'm not comparing to what's going on at ISKCON today, but those were the words of Srila Prabhupada. It's the consciousness. Kirtan means pure, for Krishna's pleasure, not just because I like it. That will be there in the beginning. But we have to understand it's Krishna himself that we're dealing with here. We're not dealing with a thing to achieve another thing. I like it. It's not even something we can bang down if I just chant more than I will get what I want. And that may be a childlike mentality, but that's not the mentality of pure devotional service. It's spontaneous. Spontaneous, constant. Because of love and realization, this is Krishna. Can't stop chanting Hare Krishna, whatever name of God it is. It's spontaneous. To come to that level, we need to follow a spontaneous leader. That's why we follow Srila Prabhupada. The method which will please Krishna that we're following is pure devotee. That we're following Krishna's will. We're not making... Yesterday, I think you also made your will yesterday? I finished my will yesterday.
Work in progress.
Huh?
Work in progress.
Work in progress. Yeah. It's a complicated affair. Will. So then, when you make a will, you're supposed to follow the will. Is that right? Is that how it works? In due course of time. So Krishna has given us his will. Will in French, what is it called? So when, of course, we're never going to leave our body, we all know that. But just in case the unexpected should happen, it does happen sometimes, I've heard.
I heard.
You heard about that? You've ever heard about that? You must have.
More or less. Yeah.
More or less. More than less, I think. More than less. Whatever. It's not an absolute rule you have to, but it's something which is recommended, especially for people like Goswami and Prabhu and myself. Everybody knows we've got billions of euros in our bank account and properties all over the place, not only in New Mayapur. We've got properties all over the world. We're just more expert than others at covering it over, right? That's why he's having so much problem with his will. Now I understand it. You're supposed to follow the will. When we quit our body, the people are supposed to follow it. It is a proper will. So Krishna's left his will, Bhagavad Gita, will of God. And in the form of his pampara, he's left his will. In the form of the process he's given us is his will. We follow the will, you inherit the kingdom of God. Isn't that what it said? Isn't that statement there in the Bhagavatam?
With no doubt. With no doubt.
With no doubt, there we go. Doubts have to be removed. Slash with a weapon of knowledge. You inherit the kingdom of God. And it's automatic. That would be, you could say, it's judged eventually. It's yours. And when we follow the will, you get the result. Now, this is the promise of Krishna. I give you my kingdom if you follow my will. Very simple. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. We've already got 1/4 of the way through the purport. One can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead as He is only by devotional service, and when one is in full consciousness of the Supreme Lord by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. We finish this paragraph. Only by Seva Mukha, by engaging oneself in the Lord's service, can one realize the name, form and qualities of the Supreme Personality of God. Only through devotional service can we realize that transcendental nature of the name, form and qualities of the Supreme Lord. Not by any other means. Because Krishna gives that realization. The key point. He gives that. He removes the darkness which is covering. He removes the doubts. He chooses to reveal himself. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. 2 questions, is it?
No.
I had 2 hands up. I think he always has a question. You have a lot of questions. You're going to have to speak quite loud because my hearing is not as good as yours.
I would like to share that good understanding. If we, if for example, I am the...
Everyone quiet, please. I can't hear a word.
If for example, I am the and family members...
Family members?
believes in God, believes father, for example, believe in God, mother doesn't believe in God.
Your family members believe in God?
Yes, and if I, how I can to know if I come back to the God?
If you come back where?
To the Godhead, spiritual
To Godhead.
Lord.
Yeah.
Just family members doesn't come back. So how I can to know if I need to wait until they come back? Because
You have to wait till they come back.
Yeah.
You can wait in the spiritual world also. You don't have to wait here.
Oh, so they, yes?
No, if you are practicing pure devotional service in whatever stage it's on, yasya hridasya, manas kamanam, that if you're situated on that path of pure devotion, although we may not be yet pure in consciousness, we're on that path, then you bring good fortune to everyone around you. You bring good fortune, or let's say good fortune comes to all those around you. We don't do it, we're just what we are. But good fortune comes to your family. It may take some time, depending on how pure we are, and it may take some time, but it's a guaranteed fact according to Shastra that in due course of time, of course, that is kind of an open-ended statement. You could say it might be billion lifetimes, but no. Your parents can even be delivered in this lifetime if you become a pure devotee of the Lord. By your devotional pleasing Krishna in that way is up to Krishna. It's not, you can't measure this one does and that one doesn't necessarily, but it's understood that generations, not even one, of family members will be delivered. Now, how they're delivered and what stage they're delivered is another thing. This word liberation is often used in so many different ways. Yesterday we were reading liberation, meaning basically, Prabhupada was talking about it. He said, yes, just by one chanting of Namabas, quoting Haridas Thakur, one can be liberated. So we think, going to the Brahman or going back to Goloka, what does it mean? But no, Prabhupada explained, it means you are completely freed of all your sinful reactions. Pop. But the problem is, you still have the tendency for sinful life, and you go back into it again. without the proper, association, without the proper knowledge, the tendency is to go back into it again. Even though you become cleansed, it's like a prisoner has fulfilled their term in jail. They were sentenced to 2 years in jail for stealing something or whatever. They come out and do the same thing again. They're free, they're liberated, right? But they come out and do the same, and they go back in again. Takes time. But without knowledge, without some kind of understanding, they tendency to do this again and again and again. So in this particular case, your parents, if you go back to Godhead, what happens to them? Well, we see in the case of Dhruva Maharaj, of course this is extremely, you could say, elevated example. When he was going back to Godhead, what happened?
His mother went with him.
Why?
Because he was concerned, he was asking.
He wouldn't go back to Godhead without his mother. Why?
Because she was the one who showed him the path.
She was a Vatma Pradarshaka Guru of Dhruva Maharaj. She first of all pointed him in a direction which resulted in his practicing sadhana bhakti and coming to the realized platform through that practice. So he treated her like that. You know what Prabhupada writes in that purport? To that verse. He writes, I hope that some of my devotees will also become as advanced as Dhruva Maharaj and will take me back to Godhead also. Inconceivable, isn't it? But that's how he feels. That's how a devotee feels. They feel compassion. Now, at our stage, we can't understand this, but a devotee feels compassion for all living entities, even those who appear to be so demoniac from our particular perception. So much compassion there. Do you think Krishna is going to say, I don't care about what your feelings are. I want to enjoy you. I know. The devotee is an ocean of compassion. He wants all living. Just look at Vasudeva Dutta's example. He's just a personification of compassion. He doesn't care if he suffers for eternity, as long as everyone else goes back to God and brings pleasure to Krishna. Going back to Godhead, by the way, it's not like getting on a Flix bus or whatever it is. State of consciousness is also a real realization. Of course it is. State of consciousness, even in this world. It's not some geographical locale. It's state of realizing that we are already in the spiritual world, but our consciousness is not. So changing of consciousness, and then the realization comes. So a devotee just sees everything. Everything is meant for Krishna's pleasure. Everyone and everything. And that's their only desire, to see Krishna's pleasure increased by connecting everything to Krishna, no matter who they are. And Krishna reciprocates, just like in Prabhupada's poem we were reading the other day, how, I can't remember word for word how Prabhupada was saying how in this Srimad Bhagavatam, understanding Srimad Bhagavatam is the solution. But unfortunately people are so covered they don't have the understanding or even the interest. So my desire, Prabhupada writes, as you please give them the understanding of this Srimad Bhagavatam. That's the desire of the pure devotee. He wants that. It's almost like a battle going on between the conditioned soul who doesn't want to and the pure devotee who does, and it takes some time there. But the Lord has to fulfill his pure devotee's desire in due course of time. How it evolves is another thing. It will. So if you become a pure devotee, right now we have a sentiment, we don't have the pure, unalloyed motivation. But when you come to a platform of pure devotion, everything is possible. Everything. And that will become clear when it becomes clear. You can't speculate on these details now. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. Such a beautiful purport coming out. I wanted to speak on 37. I couldn't sleep last night much. So I did actually do a preparation for 37. But That won't be tomorrow either. We're only a quarter of the way through 36. So whoever's giving class tomorrow is 36 again. And the purple ended left off. You have to see where the purple end. Are you going to be monitoring tomorrow's class? Come, Anina. I finished the purport there. Godhead.
Okay.
Godhead. Good way to finish it. Godhead.
Always.
We only read that much. And there is still another 3 or 4 pages to go there by the looks of it. Okay. So whoever giving class tomorrow, you have a lot of juicy substance there to get involved in. Just beginning. Verses a very long commentary. One of Prabhupada's long. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.